but considering their history, there had to be someone better suited for the job.
You could have said no.
Yeah, he could have. But he owed Lucy Baudin. A single meeting wasn't much in the face of the fact that he'd more or less single-handedly brought her engagement down in flames. He knocked on the dark wooden door as he opened it. The office was bright and airy, big windows overlooking New York. The only furniture a large L-shaped desk and 2 comfortable-looking chairs arranged in front of it. Gideon took in the room in a single sweep, and then focused on the woman behind the desk. Lucy sat straight, her narrow shoulders tense, as if she was about to step onto a battlefield. Her long dark hair was pinned back into some style that looked effortless, but probably took a significant amount of time to accomplish. She raised her pointed chin, which drew his attention to her mouth. Lucy's features were a little too sharp to pass for traditional beauty. She would have made a killing on a runway. But her mouth was full and generous, and had always been inclined to smile. There were no smiles today.
Lucy.
He shut the door behind him, holding his place to let her guide the interaction. She was the one who'd called him here. It didn't feel natural to take his lead from someone else, but for her he'd make an effort. At least until he heard her out. Gideon, sit, please. She motioned at the chairs in front of the desk. Maybe she could pretend like this was any other job interview, but he couldn't stop staring at her. She wore a dark gray dress that set off her pale skin and dark hair, leaving the only color present in her blue eyes and red lips. It created a striking picture. The woman was a goddamn gift. She always had been.
Jeff, you fucked things up beyond all recognition when you threw her away. Focus.
She hadn't arranged this meeting because of their past. If she could be professional, then he'd manage as well. It was the least he could do. Gideon sank into the chair and leaned forward, bracing his elbows on his knees.
You said this was about a job?
Yes. A faint blush colored her pale cheeks, highlighting the smattering of freckles there. This is confidential, of course. It wasn't quite a question, but he answered it anyway.
I didn't put together a non-disclosure, but I can do that if you need to make it official.
That won't be necessary. Your word that it stays between us will be enough. Curiosity curled through him. He'd had clients insist on confidentiality in the past. It was more the rule than the exception, but this felt different. He set the thought aside and focused on the job.
It would help if you described the position you want filled. It gives me a general idea of what you're looking for, and we can narrow it down from there.
She met his gaze directly, her blue eyes startling. The position I need filled is a husband. Gideon shook his head, sure he'd heard her wrong.
Excuse me?
A husband. She held up her left hand and wiggled her ring finger. Before you get that look on your face, let me explain. He didn't have any look on his face.
A husband? Where the fuck does she think I'm going to find a husband?
He opened his mouth to ask exactly that, but Lucy beat him there. The timing isn't ideal, but gossip has come down the grapevine that I'm being considered for partner at the end of the year. While that would normally be a cause for celebration, some of the old guard have very strong beliefs about single women. She rolled her eyes. The first Lucy thing he'd seen her do since he'd arrived. It would be laughable if it wasn't standing in the way of what I want. But I watched Georgia get passed over for a promotion last year for this exact reason. She wouldn't bend, and they chose her male competition instead. She was dead serious.